The sea has so many tales to tell. Even in these modern days of technology, when nobody writes of giant whales, beautiful mermaids, lost treasures, one legged pirates, and crew mutinies, trust me, there are many, many stories out there as varied as the colors and the moods of the oceans. So, today you are going to meet a seaman who has retired as a sea captain in Merchant Navy. He has served for 45 odd years, and I'm going to welcome Captain Beetashok Chatterjee on my Mona Lisa's talk show. This is season 4, episode 3. Welcome, Captain B. How are you?
I'm fine, Mona Lisa. Thank you for inviting me, and I am glad to be here and willing to be a witness on the witness stand to take the questions from the prosecutor.
Don't worry, it's not going to be that scary, it's going to be fun. So, as we were talking that
Yeah,
you have
I'm
retired
sure.
as a ship captain, so I really want to know the journey that why did you join Merchant Navy? What was the inspiration behind it? And how did it all happen?
Okay. In those days, I'm talking about the mid 70s, there weren't many career options. I mean, you couldn't be a YouTuber or a fashion designer or a marketing maven or whatever. You could either be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or sit for the civil services exam. That's it. Or maybe join the army. So, with those limited options in mind, I joined the economics honors at Hindu College in Delhi University. When by chance I came to know about this concept called the merchant navy. You must understand that before that, I had never seen a ship before, I had never seen the sea before, and I'd never been to Bombay before. And it all, I heard about this something called the SCI, Shipping Corporation of India, which is still India's biggest government shipping company, owns many ships, more than 100 at that time. They were recruiting cadets to work and learn and earn on their ships and study and get promoted and finally become officers in their fleet. So they were looking for more manpower. So I went to Bombay for the first time. It was a rainy afternoon, July 1974, and I found 1,000 boys, at least 1,000 boys on all the 20 floors or 22 floors that the SCI office had. And we all sat for this written exam on various subjects, but mainly objective type. And we all went through the interview and we all went back home, back to our cities and our homes all over the country. I was fortunate to be selected among 30 out of the 1,000 at that time. They took more people later, but
Wow.
that time 30 were chosen as the first SCI pre-C batch, it is called. And before I knew it, I quit college, of course. My parents were wondering what was going on. They didn't know much about merchant navy either. And I came to Bombay. We did a pretty intensive, short 3 week, 6 week course, which was very, like Indian Navy kind of military type of training, along with studies and classes and parades and everything. And before I knew it, by November 1974, that is exactly 50 years ago, I was on a ship on the high seas with just no land around me. There was just the sea all around. So I began to visit places, see countries, and I loved it. I said, this is the career for me, and no regrets so far. So it happened by chance. Somebody told me about this opportunity. I took it, and last 50 years, last 45 years after that, I did that same job, and no regrets so far.
So, do you miss it that now that you have retired?
I very much so. I do miss it. Yeah, again, sea life is not what it was. Now, we had a lot of freedom those days. We used to travel, we used to go ashore, we used to see all kinds of places, meet all kinds of people. Visitors would visit the ships. there. There were no restrictions. But after 9/11, everything clamped down. In fact, a little before that, from the 90s onwards, the restrictions and rules and regulations have just tightened and tightened and tightened. And it's not so nice for seafarers anymore. But again, my mind has filtered out the bad things. And I remember just the good things, and I miss the sea very much.
Wonderful. So now let's come to your books and discuss some of your literary works. Let me first ask with the first book of yours. The question is that the first book is Driftwood Stories Washed Ashore. So how did the idea of this book? Obviously, now that you have told me that you have been into sea for such a long time, obviously you have gained sort of stories. Yeah. So tell me that what are the stories all about? How did the theme happen? Why did you choose this title? I would like to know.
Okay, you see, I've always been an avid reader. So even while I was at sea, on my spare time, I used to read and read and read, especially, fiction. What I found was a dearth of maritime fiction. There were just no stories or novels about, whether the protagonist is a seafarer or the setting has been on a ship or on the high seas. So I wondered why that was, because it was, I mean, we seafarers have such unique experiences. We go to places that other people haven't been to. We meet all kinds of people. So why aren't people writing about it? I mean, I, as a young person, my school days and a little after that, I read Moby Dick, I read Lord Jim, those classics that everyone has heard of. But those were written 200, 250 years ago. And in 1982, I think, in the 80s, I read a book called The Black Tide by Hammond Ince. That was also set on a ship, a very nice, exciting novel. But since then, nothing. So then I said, why don't I take up the mantle and write stories of the sea? Because our stories need to be told. I firmly believe that. We have so many stories to tell and they need to be told. So I started compiling sea stories. Earlier, I used to write poems. I have written almost 50, in fact. Uh, no prizes for guessing the central theme. Central theme has been the sea. But then I switched over to short stories sometime in about 10 years ago. So driftwood happened in the sense that I wrote about 13, 14 stories and kind of sifted to, filtered them into about 12. And then I approached publishers. So while I was still sailing as a captain, 2019, Readomania, the publisher, accepted my manuscript and they published Driftwood. I'm very grateful to them, always will be, because they made my dreams come true. And this contains, let me just read out the blurb for a short while. I mean, just
Sure.
because exactly what I was talking about a little while ago. When was the last time you read some modern sea stories? Stories of ships and the seafarers who man them? Tales of adventure, love, romance, piracy, intrigue, and human nature. So Driftwood has got all of them. It's not just for seafarers, it's for anyone who likes to read fiction. So my target audience is not seafarers, but people who love reading. So that's what Driftwood was all about.
So have you ever thought? So have you ever thought of this that there are so many sea stories you have, and maybe you can start your YouTube channel and you can narrate those stories, come in front of the audience and do that verbally. So maybe you generate more audience for your book.
Okay, no, I didn't think about that. Thank you for the suggestion. I don't know how well that will work, but okay, let me think about it. Except that some stories are long. It may take the video clip may be 10, 15 minutes long, or maybe possibly longer. So I don't know if I would be able to hold the audience's attention. But Thank you for
I
suggesting
think
that.
you
It
should.
never occurred to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, tell
because
me.
I think you should not do it like reading a book. Maybe you can do it like you are conversing with someone, like you're telling a story to maybe children or to some young people, like that.
And introduce images and stuff. Do you suggest that? Introduce
So
images
now
between
we
my story?
come.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that. Absolutely. But
Okay, let
for
me think
that, you
about
need
it.
some help for editing, and also maybe your son could help you out for this.
Yeah, I'll ask him. He's a very busy young man. But let me see. Thank you for the suggestion.
You're welcome. So now let's come to your book, The People Tree. I also have this book, and it is obviously different from your first book, as the name suggests. So I want to know that you are more of a sea person. So why did you choose to write The People Tree? And I think this is more on, like you or earlier said, that this is a pun, as the title suggests. So how much research or observation you had to do for, like creating this book, the stories?
Yeah, with the people tree, I wanted to make a point. I wanted to prove to my readers that I just because I'm a seafarer, it doesn't mean I can write only about the sea. I wanted to show them that I can write other stuff as well. I'm versatile. So I wrote 14 stories in the people tree. Nothing, none of them having anything to do with the sea. So again, I'd like to read out a little bit from the blurb that will give you an idea what this book is about. Here are 14 stories for you, a veritable potpourri of tales, each different from the other in style and substance. From the Khalistan insurgency in Punjab to a glimpse of the Mumbai underworld, from a doomed love affair in Hyderabad to a mature gay relationship, from a lifelong friendship formed in unusual circumstances to the pangs of a schoolboy crush to robbing an art museum in London. There's something for everybody and more. So I tried to write as each story, tried to make it as different from the other as possible. And for each, well, my research had to be quite extensive because, I was moving out of my comfort zone and I was writing about stuff I really didn't know so much about. So, yes, I did research. For example, now, one story is about 9/11, the disaster. And my hero was there on the spot during when that disaster took place. So I had to read up a lot, and I had to even look up the map and see which street he was in when he came, heard about it, or when he heard the towers falling, and how he ran into the smoke and ash. And then another story about robbing an art museum in London. So to rob an art museum in London, I had to select which museum to rob, and then the how to approach the museum, how to get away and head north to safer areas. So yes, I did a lot of research. Then there was I think a setback in history. There was a story about set in 16th century Maharashtra. So there again, I mean, history is not my subject, but then I did a lot of reading. So I'm very proud of the people tree in the sense that I put in a lot of effort and I am quite pleased with the way the stories turned out.
Okay. And how much, like, you feel that, you could also try out your hand for writing more such book? Maybe you can try writing a novel. Have you decided on writing a novel yet?
Yes, I'd love to write a novel, although to be honest, I haven't begun one. In fact, my editor, she's been my editor for all the four books, Indrani Ganguly. She also suggested to me, why don't I write now enough short stories? You must give us a full length novel and not about the sea. So that's quite a tall order for me because I haven't written a novel before, and I do intend to write one. the sooner the better. That's better start work on it, and hopefully it will happen someday. But I can't say when.
Wonderful. So now let's come to your book, which is a non-fiction Mayday. So was it difficult to shift from fiction to non-fiction, and also because it asks for a completely different kind of approach towards writing? How much time it took to complete this book and then bring it out as a paperback, because you were mostly writing books on sea and all other short stories. So Maydays is different from the other books. Okay, please tell me, how is it?
Yeah, Mayday was totally non-fiction. Actually, my publisher asked me to write a non-fiction book for a change because, as we all know, non-fiction books sell better, sell more, and because everyone wants to increase their knowledge about something or the other, whatever the book is about. Fair enough. And my son suggested to me that, Dad, since your field of expertise is marine life, why don't you write about the major maritime accidents that have taken place in history? And that's what I did. I selected 13 major maritime incidents of shipwrecks that took place in history. Titanic, of course, everyone has heard of. 12
Hmm.
more. 13 incidents where there was either a huge loss of life, or there was immense damage to the environment, or there was very bad media coverage, very extensive media coverage, and or a little of everything. So Mayday happened, and surprisingly, it was easier to write than you may not think so, but it was easier for me to write non-fiction than fiction because in fiction you're starting with a blank page. You
Hmm.
don't know how to begin, how to continue, and how to end it because it's nothing there. It's blank. Whereas with non-fiction, the page is already half full with facts and figures and incidents and events. You can't mess with the date and time or what exactly happened and what took place. So half the page is already full. You have to put in your other half to make it a full page. So for all these incidents, it's well documented. What happened, how it happened, what time it happened, the each stage of the disaster. All I had to do was put in my own spin. With the benefit of hindsight, of course, decided, I suggested that how the incidents could have been avoided. With my knowledge, experience, or whatever you call it, I've suggested, like, if they had done this, this would not have happened. And if they had gone on to do that, then that would not have happened. So I've given my own opinion on that, uh, with the benefit of hindsight, of course. So that is what Mayday is all about. It's a chronicle of 13, I chose the number 13 deliberately.
Okay.
It's a chronicle of 13 maritime major accidents that have taken place in history.
So basically, it brings out all the what ifs of all
What
the
ifs?
major, yeah.
Exactly. What
And I
if
think
they
that's
had
a
done this,
very
then this would
interesting
not have
approach.
happened? Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. Now, actually, you have enticed me to pick this book now. Mayday. Now let's come to
Sorry, I
your
didn't get it.
recent book, Wind Chimes.
Yeah,
So we are going to talk about your recent book, Wind Chimes, and I haven't started reading it yet. So I would really like to know that you tell the audience that what this book is all about.
sure.
And again, we can see on the cover page there's sea and all the seagulls. So it's quite interesting. So I want to know that why did you choose this title, Wind Chimes? And please tell me about the book. And please do some reading from
Okay,
this book.
I'll do that.
It will be amazing.
Okay. Uh, Wind Chimes is again a collection of sea stories. Just like Driftwood, and this is also sea stories, but there are only 11 of them, not 12 or 13.
Okay.
Uh, I went back to my comfort zone of sea stories because I've got so many sea stories in my head, you know. So wind chimes also a sea stories, but they are different from driftwood stories. Whether they are good, whether they are better, or whether they are worse, that is for the reader to decide. But they are different. They're all longer, but they are also. I have gone into some, more experimentation. I've experimented with the narration. For example, I tried stuff that I hadn't done in Driftwood. There's one story which I have set in the 1971 Indo-Pak War. So
Okay.
story there. Then I have gone back in time. I have set a story during the time of, say, Christopher Columbus. Where there's a naval battle between the Spanish Armada and a pirate ship, or both wooden sailing ships, with a love story in between, thrown in between them. So in modern times, I have written a story on sailors battling COVID at sea, what they have gone through, their isolation and everything, and the media attention and stuff like that. So I have done a more experimenting, and then I've written a story about the crew in a totally hostile country in sub-zero conditions and how they survive. And then there's a humorous story as well about people on board, some of them going on a diet, trying to lose weight. So
Okay.
I've done a bit of experimenting, and their stories are different. It's for the audience to decide whether they are better or worse than Driftwood. But the reviews have been very good. The reviews have been very favorable, and I'm quite happy with the way things are going.
So, would you like to read something from the book?
I can read the blurb if you like from the back.
Sure, please.
Again, it's Wind Chimes by the Sea, Stories Blown Ashore, has tales covering the era of tall sailing ships, the 1971 Indo-Pak War, a sailor trapped in a city of darkness, battling COVID at sea, a hapless crew in a frozen hostile country, the horrors of a severe storm at sea, illegal immigration, and many more. And then I have also mentioned a little bit, which is a little similar to my driftwood blurb, because basically that's the message I'm sending out. That when was the last time you read stories, ancient and modern, that gave you a glimpse of life at sea? Sea stories, but not for seafarers alone. Tales of war and peace, sorrow and laughter, love and hate, adventure and romance. So I try to include all these in my stories, because basically they are not for the seafarer, they are for anyone who likes to read fiction. And you've already read from the forward a bit, so which I hope you liked. So
Yeah.
this book is about that. And this book has another very special
And
thing.
why the
It's
title
got
Wind
artwork.
Chimes by the Sea?
No, it's got artwork by my daughter. And she's
Okay.
done a fabulous job, I'm telling you. For example, let me show you. This is the story of the 1971 Pak War, in where she's done the artwork of a naval ship firing a missile. Okay.
Okay.
Then one more. Let me show you one more image. This is the story of a ship which is caught in a shipwreck. Is the light good enough? Can you see? This is she's rough seas. She
Yeah, I
has
can see.
drawn. She's done a wonderful job with the images, and I'm very happy with the work she's done. So each story has an image by my daughter, which kind of tells you about the story, and I hope people like it.
So this time, this is more of a father-daughter collaboration in this book.
Exactly. So was Mayday. In fact, Mayday too. She did all the artwork, and although the images were smaller, due to the fact that There was
Okay.
some restrictions on the page limit, and all the publisher couldn't make it larger. For example, this is a sailing ship in a storm. This is in Mayday, in the
Hmm.
first chapter.
Okay.
So I think she's done a fabulous job.
Wonderful. So now, I would like to know that what is your preferred time that you like to write? Is it the night time or the daytime? When do you feel that your, brain and everything works in proper rhythm?
You're right. We do need a proper time of day. I'm not an early morning person. I used to be, but ever since I retired, my timings have gone haywire. I sleep later and later, and I get up also late. So for me, the ideal time, at least the time I used for my last two books, Mayday and Wind Chimes, was mid morning. Around 11 to 1. I found that time was the best for me. I'd put in a couple of hours every day. Sometimes, when the inspiration is going on in my head and I want to write, oh, I must add this and I must delete that, then I'd work in the evenings as well. But generally, it was mid morning, 11 to 1. I know many authors get up early in the morning and write, and I'm not so disciplined anymore. Many authors write late at night because that's the quietest time of day, and you have to have some quiet.
Hmm.
You have to have some peace and quiet. Even you're a writer too, and I've read your book. So, I mean, you have to have. You can't have these disturbances, a family of roaming around and making a racket. So we have to find our own time, which suits us best. For me, it's mid morning.
Nice. And it's been your journey of four books, I guess, so far.
Yes, four
So
so far.
I would like to know that how difficult it was from your first book to now Wind Chimes, and what kind of advice you would like to give to aspiring authors who are just starting out and they want to get published.
Uh, it never gets easier. I mean, especially if you have developed a little reputation, this guy writes well, I will see what his next book is all about. It becomes, the pressure is even more that you cannot screw up. Your next book should be better than your last one, or at least as good. So the pressure develops, the pressure builds up. It never gets easier. If you have got a standard quality, or if a certain quality is expected of you, then you have to live up to it. So that's the sad part of it. What advice to give to aspiring writers? Well, some basic advice would be, don't stop watching television. Television, at least the news on TV, is the biggest time waster of all. If you don't watch TV, even if you might want to watch these serials on OTT, but okay, you might get some story ideas, but then people will catch you. कि, "अरे, तुमने यहाँ से copy किया है, वहाँ से copy किया." So even if you get some story ideas, these Netflix and Prime will not teach you how to write. So that has to be from reading other people's work, from reading good books. So stop watching TV. You'll find you immediately have a couple of hours extra in the day. Okay, then be accept criticism. I mean, constructive criticism. Don't mope, or don't get angry with them, or don't get upset, or don't start howling. It's part of the game. As you get bigger and bigger, and hopefully you all will, as you get more and more well known, and more people start reading your books, then there will be more and more criticism. Because earlier, who is going to write about you? The reviews are always generally your friends or your family members who don't want to hurt your feelings, and they'll all write, very nice book, excellent, 5 stars. But the reality will hit you when proper reviewers, they take an interest in your book and they give a very balanced view. You will find some criticism also coming along, because we are not perfect, and we can improve. There's always room for improvement. So develop a thick skin. Criticism will come, and it is also a sign that more and more people are reading your book. Uh, Write a little every day. I mean, don't wait for inspiration to come. When I get inspiration, then I'm going to write. It never works that way. Write, discipline yourself to put in a couple of hours every day, because uh, even if nothing is coming into your head, just do research on the topic or reread what you have written so far and just see how it sounds and what it looks like. So these facts, I mean, these tips are coming to mind. There are more tips, of course. Uh, that's all I can think of at the moment.
So, as you were saying that you should write, even this distraction, you should still write. So, I want to know, have you ever had experience like writer's block?
Oh my God, tell me about it. All the time, writer's block is a very serious problem, and I don't. If it goes away by itself, as far as I know, you cannot, uh, kind of force it to go away. If there is a way, I don't know what it is about. So during your writer's block days, I think you should still sit down and even if you doodle, it's okay. Even if you write down some characters, you can write down something, or if you reread your earlier work, even that you should do because that discipline needs to be maintained of sitting down in one place for an hour or two every day. Writer's block is a common occurrence, and especially with me, I really don't know how to solve the problem.
And would you agree that among this social media thing and all, distraction happens and writing becomes the most difficult part?
Absolutely. Social media is a disease, and I too am guilty of this doom scrolling all the time because more and more stuff is coming in, and it takes. I confess to doom scroll about 3 to 4 hours a day, and my family gets very irritated by my doing that, but I can't help it. Uh, so I'm on Instagram and WhatsApp and Facebook and all the time, and it's eating into my writing habits, and I hate myself for it, and I can't do anything about it. I must do something about it. And, so that will again stop watching TV, and I would say stop uh, indulging in social media. I think that's also equally important. Although I haven't been able to do that, I can control my TV watching, but I can't control my social media, and I know that I must.
I think you will find a way out soon because
I
sometimes it
must.
gets overwhelming as well, and you have to find a way of, discerning yourself. So,
Exactly.
let's do some fun thing now. There's a rapid fire and try to
Okay.
be monosyllabic as much you can. Okay.
Try
So
to
the
be more
first one
what?
is if you get monosyllabic, like one word answer.
Oh, okay.
So if you get another chance to go back in time, what would you like to choose as a profession?
Sea captain.
Again?
Sea captain. Like I want to be Christopher Columbus or Saint Captain James Cook. I want to be an expert navigator and explorer and discover new lands.
Okay. So what are you currently reading?
Uh, a modern classic called Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote.
Okay.
Lovely book. I also read Indian authors,
Nice.
but
Okay, so your favorite author.
my favorite author, if I have to choose only one, I would say Jeffrey Archer.
Okay.
I love his short stories. Yeah.
Your favorite movie.
Hindi or English? Hindi or English?
Any? Any. Both
Okay,
maybe. Yeah, both you
separately,
can say.
Hindi would be Anand or Amar Prem. Both are Rajesh Khanna films, but I'm no big
Hmm.
fan of Rajesh Khanna. But just coincidentally, Anand or Amar Prem. And English would be Fiddler on the Roof, a musical, or The Shawshank Redemption. I was blown away by
Okay.
those films.
So, obviously, I've come to know a lot about you now, how you pass your time, but still, let's ask this. What is your go to pastime?
Doom scrolling. I'm trying to get out of it, but this social media has got me by its tentacles. And I hope to get out of it someday, but I don't know how. So that's my go to pastime, and doing that most of the time, morning, noon, and night.
Okay, wonderful. So, I've tweaked a question. This is a different one. If you have to choose one character from any of your books, who is your favorite that you feel more connected to it?
Well, I'm a character in many of my books. I mean, so many are based on personal experience, but I I would say Ajay Chaudhary of my first book, Driftwood, in the story The Stairway to Heaven. He's a naughty, fascinating character. I'm not Ajay Chaudhary, but I wrote about somebody called Ajay Chaudhary. That was very interesting character.
Okay. Okay. Now, since you have so many sea stories, you say, have you ever thought that maybe you can write, we have seen so many movies of ghost ships and hauntings and all. Have you ever thought of this, that maybe you could write and try out this genre as well, using the sea as a backdrop and ship, and you could actually use some haunting stories and all,
Use them for what? You mean write ghost stories?
like writing a novel maybe
Oh, writing a novel.
based on
Okay,
sea.
I could do that. But as my editor suggested, try to write a novel this time without the sea in it. But I could have a bit of the sea. I'm working on it. I mean, not
Hmm.
started work as such. It's there in my head. I will have to introduce the sea a little bit, with just a voyage or something. Uh, I will, because that is my comfort zone. That's what I can write best about. I would do that, but I would not set it entirely at sea because I just want to be a little different. I want to show that I'm versatile for the same reason that I wrote The
Hmm.
People Tree. So I will write
Right.
mainly an offshore kind of story, but I will have a bit of
Hmm.
sea in it.
Okay. So that was wonderful, that you have so many books to your credit. And I have two of your
Thank
amazing
you.
books with me, and I'm going to read it soon and review it. And I wish to congratulate you for this book. And it was really
Thank
lovely
you.
talking to you, Captain B. And I would be looking forward to have more, sessions when you are out with your novel and all.
Okay, sure. I look forward to that. And thank you for interviewing me. And I wish your channel all the very best.
B. But it was lovely talking to him. And please pick his books. His latest one is Wind Chimes by the Sea. So it's his latest book of short stories. Pick it from Amazon, read it, and review it, and support Indian authors. And also follow my page and also subscribe to my channel. Have a great evening, all. Take care.